Hello, and welcome to yet another edition of Through a Therapist's Eyes. I am Chris Gazdick, a therapist since 1995, here to share with you thoughts about therapy. But we have actually a group today. Cortney, you're back with us. Hello.
I'm back. Thank you.
How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm kind of excited about this show for a specific reason that I think is pretty cool. Y'all are going to have to turn and tune in to the YouTube version or the Facebook version that's alive, because we have actually, for the very first time, I am married and she is here.
I'm here.
How you doing, Lisa?
I'm good.
That's cool.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. We are going to be talking about, like I said, parents with special needs kids is the focus today. So I'd like to say this is a perspective of a therapist and crew today in your own personal car or personal time in your home. This is not the delivery of therapy services in any way. And still have that book out, Rediscovering Emotions and Becoming Your Best Self. So you get a whole crew today that is going to help us all truly figure this thing out together, the human emotional experience. Cortney, before I forget, how do they find you? I like to make sure that they can get with you
Right.
while you're on recording with us. So,
Well, thanks.
yeah.
Yes.
VOCEM, VOCEM.
That's right. And the website is yourvocem.com. It's a writing services company. I offer ghostwriting, editing, beta reading, those types of things. I want to help people get their stories out. That's my jam.
Lisa knows I can't spell. Is that fair? You could be honest.
Oh, yeah. We're totally honest here.
He struggles.
It's
It's
true.
okay. It's okay.
So true. And she is an awesome editor. She edited my books. I really appreciate your work with that. Looking forward, if I haven't scared you off, to do the next book with Cortney. So your editing needs, ghostwriting, she is absolutely awesome at what she does. I mean that. I've grown to know her for how long now? A couple years.
Yeah, a couple years.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the good word right there.
Absolutely. Neil, you can give me just a bit of a head nod. I think we've been playing around with this announcement. Are we live for Redbubble, right? Okay, so it is live and active. We can we've now got the emblem. Speaking of spelling and handwriting, this guy actually digitized my handwriting. I don't know how that's going to look. You got to check it out on Redbubble. You know, he had me write Through a Therapist's Eyes. Or no, what did we do? Let's figure this out together, right? Yeah, the second one. Let's figure this out together. And he told me to write on a piece of paper. He took a picture, digitized it, and put it on like cups and stuff. So, and I've seen it. It's actually legible. It is actually legible. So we're going to add a lot more quotes and things. So to put on various things. Like I think it's really cool. I'm very excited about this. So you can check it out. We'll have a link on the website, throughatherapist'seyes.com, and you get therapy journals that you can write things down. You got phone covers. You've got notebooks and magnets. A lot of people love T-shirts with cool phrases on it. I was literally just talking to a client the other day about it. So I'm really excited about it. I think people are really going to enjoy it. And the brainchild of Neil brought out a jigsaw puzzle. Right? I don't know if I told you this, Lisa.
No.
He's got a jigsaw puzzle that says, "Let's figure this out together." Is that not? I think that's catchy.
That's cool.
I think that's catchy. So, well, I have cool things on there. So we really appreciate you listening. We appreciate you being with us through the years now. We can say too. Episode, what is this? Almost 180.
Wow.
It's crazy. That's crazy. So I get to give a big qualifier here to start. Okay, I'm going to look into the camera and I'm going to own the reality that this here topic I have complete weaknesses in. Always have. I don't know why, but I really kind of want you to know from the get-go, which is one of the reasons I thought Lisa would be awesome for the show, and I'm so excited. Thank you so much, by the way.
You're welcome.
For being here. I really appreciate you doing this. Because I needed help with this one. I mean, there's definitely several topics from time to time that I bring guests and people on because, developmental disabilities and special needs, learning disabilities especially, particularly learning disabilities, I don't think it's my weakness. I think it's like our human weakness. I don't think we understand them at all that very much. I see you both shaking your head. I mean, would you agree?
From a parent's perspective, yes, I would agree with you.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
It is such a mystery, I feel like, in a lot of ways. But when we're talking tonight, I have some experience with this, actually, for sure. But, there's a lot that I don't purport to really understand about this, working especially with people that have the issues. Now, working with parents, I'm definitely a little bit more up on. Just to give a little example, like I remember working with a client who was pretty significantly and severely autistic. Now, y'all know what autism is, of course.
Yes.
Can you imagine doing talk therapy with a client who literally uses sounds and gestures to convey what his messages were? That was challenging. And so we're really going to get in tonight with the idea of like what parents are struggling with and kind of how this really works on the day-to-day level. Because it can be really stressful and scary in the beginning. I'm going to make that bold statement. So with all that being said, where do we go with, it's funny. I love definitions to start out with. So, Cortney and I were just talking, Lisa, a little bit ago. You might be a really interesting person just to ask off the cuff. Like, when you think of, and I'm really curious how you're going to see this, but when you think of special needs,
Yes.
what type of person is that? What is special needs? What would be like the definition or the diagnoses and this type of thing?
I think it would be hard to say because I think people struggle with their own setbacks. And so even if you've been diagnosed with something, I don't think your diagnosis looks like another person's diagnosis.
Again, she's awesome. She's absolutely on point, right?
Yeah.
Because you and I were talking, I mean, traditionally, special needs is thought of more specifically.
In the physical sense.
Yeah.
Things you can see, wheelchairs or a cleft palate or Down syndrome, things that are visible to someone who doesn't know that someone is struggling with special needs.
Yes.
But there are invisible special needs, like you mentioned, learning disabilities and other things like that you cannot see but are just as sometimes debilitating as the physical ones.
Yeah, a Google definition I thought was interesting, right? A youth who has been determined to require special attention and specific necessities that other children do not. And I actually liked the way those thoughts go broad. And that's what, Lisa, I think you just nailed it. And it really, I forget how you put it, but like, it's pretty broad, isn't it? Special needs.
It is. And I work with, birth to 3. So we more or less look at the child as to what they're not doing. We don't focus on their disability. If a child comes in and they're not talking, we don't automatically say, oh, well, you've got autism. We don't do that. We focus on getting this child communicating in any way possible. And that could be gestures. It could be sign language. It could be just making noises.
Yeah, and you're talking about like year 1, 2.
I'm talking about early.
Yeah. So actually, let's get that in, right? Like, who are you? Why are you here? What do you do? So you work with the CDSA, Child Developmental Services Administration, right? Did I say that wrong?
Yes.
I did. Oh my gosh. CDSA, Child Developmental Services. What did I say wrong? Well, okay, what is it?
Children's Developmental Services Agency.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, the CDSA is what, and what do you really do with them?
Well, we're an overall developmental evaluation center, and we see children birth to 3 years old at risk for delays in their development or who have delays. And we get a lot of referrals from doctors, pediatricians, the hospital, We get referrals from parents. A lot of parents don't know how to contact us, and they don't know that they can make referrals, but they can. And we see anything from a language delay to babies who were born very, very premature. And it's really just not looking at their disability. It's really looking at the child, and we really focus on, what is the child doing? What are their strengths? And then build on that, and then, working with families through coaching and building that capacity and giving the support and resources and just being there for them.
It's funny, right off the get-go, I hear you talking about that, right? And what about the very word, Cortney, disability? What does a parent hear when they get some diagnosis or something, right? Because I know, right? Like, I know that's part of what you do in supporting people. We'll come to that early on. Is these are the strengths. These are what you got going for you. These got work for it. But then they go home, right, and they talk to their neighbors or their friends, like, oh my God, my kid has a disability. What does that mean? And how about that word?
It's interesting you say that. So disability, when you first hear it as a parent regarding your child, there's a mixture of feelings.
I can't even imagine, right? Sometimes the first thing, like with me, the first thing was relief, because there was an explanation, and because, okay, I know I'm not crazy. I know that, I saw something intuitively. I knew there was something, and so it's confirmation. But on the other hand, like you said, the word disability, that means they lack an ability to do something, and that's heart-wrenching. And, it's funny that you targeted that word. So in my previous life, with my other career, I was a physical therapist. You're a little bit of everything, aren't you?
A little bit.
You're a little bit of everything. HR, career.
That's right. I said that in the last.
You did, man. Yeah, like we need your resume, man.
I'm on my fourth carear. I applied to be an FBI agent. I didn't speak Farsi. They didn't want me.
That's awesome.
True story.
I want to do that.
So the other thing, though, that really I was taught in physical therapy school, not to put someone's disability or struggle in front of the person.
Oh, interesting. When you're working with them,
even when you're talking about them. So I say children with special needs instead of special needs child, because I always want the child to be first, ahead of whatever struggle they have.
See, that's awesome.
Yeah, and so just when in talking, so disability was kind of a little ding ding, but then special needs child, I was like, ooh.
See, and I'm gonna go back to my qualifier when I started off here today, right? Like, this really is, and I recognize that, and it's frustrating a little bit, honestly, to me.
Yeah.
And I don't work a lot with that, but it's definitely come around. Like I said, that autistic kid. But it's things like that that, boy, you just don't realize.
Because when the kids hear that,
right?
It's just like a cancer patient. Well, no, it's a person struggling with cancer or going through cancer treatments. And if you put the issue, the problem, the pathology, the disease first, it strips them and it makes them think, oh, well, that's I am.
That's what I am. Yeah. Yeah, instead of the strengths.
Right.
Instead of the things you got going for you. Instead of your great parenting ability and all of this struggle. Yeah, man. I'm never going to say that away again. Probably went on like 5 minutes. I'm going to try.
I know. It's okay.
I'm going to do my best. But I thank you for that, because I will absolutely reframe that. That's right there. So, okay, back to the definition real quick, right? So traditionally, right, you think of things like Down syndrome and cystic fibrosis and spina bifida, and they actually put ADD here, interestingly, a lot in the traditional sense of when you think of special needs, but as we've already covered, there's just so much more, and I love the way you put it, the invisible, the invisible struggles.
When it comes to ADD, one of my children struggles with ADD, and we've learned to call it a neurodiversity, because there's so much strength and good things that come out of that, having that diagnosis
Absolutely.
or having
Yes.
that, brain type of brain.
Right. No, it is.
It can be a
brain.
superhero. There are certain things that they can do way better
Very well.
than typical neurotypical children. So,
Couldn't agree more.
yeah.
Yes.
I talk about that a lot. I think I have it in our flow somewhere, but we'll do it now. I heard a training or something somewhere, right, where this, what I guess clinician or assessor would do assessments for Aspergers. Which we talked off the mics, right? I still say Aspergers. I know you don't have to email me and tell me. Courtney's like, Chris, it's called the autism spectrum disorder now, and we both agreed, right? I don't want to speak for you, but
No, yeah,
it's Asperger's in my mind, and I'll do that from the end of my career. And anybody in the ethics board has a problem with it, just call me, because I see it as very different. But this Asperger's assessment clinician would assess Asperger's, and they would look to the parent and they'd be like, "Hey, guess what? Like, this is kind of cool. Guess what I'm figuring out?" And she would go on to talk about the amazing things that Asperger's kids do. It's their superhero strength.
I own my writing services business. I actually hired someone with high functioning autism / Asperger's to help me with beta reading and proofreading. Because of their hyper focus, their attention to detail, their directness. I need the honesty for beta readers. And he was fabulous.
It's out there on point.
Yeah.
You give a structure, you get some concrete directions, and they learn it. It'll be like clockwork every single time, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
I actually had a client several years ago. He went to those escape rooms, right? They're awesome at puzzles and patterns and things like that. Well, his group party went to an escape room, and he's like, "Oh, well, the letters on the back of your head, and you kind of look over here at the light, and you pick over this picture and see the letters tell you what part of the picture to look at, and that's the way you leave the room." And he's like 5 minutes in, he's done.
Buzzkill.
Total buzzkill. Yeah, so it's an amazing skill sets with a lot of these different. Particularly the invisible ones. I love that phrase as well. So let's transition to a little segment that really gets, I think, to this really tough day. And Lisa, I think you have a lot that you've observed over the years, for sure, with the initial stages of what a parent goes through, man. The observations that you've had, because we didn't talk a whole lot about it, but and I know you're super humble, but you've been doing this for a lot of years. Like, how long back does your experience go with this, man? Like,
almost 21.
Yeah, 21 years. And honestly, you can throw in up at West Virginia, you were working with.
Yes, I was working with, I was caring for adults with severe and profound disabilities.
Yeah.
They were, there were hard days.
Yeah.
But, and then I did case management and for several years. And so, yes, I've been doing this a while.
Yeah, it's probably every bit of a 30-year career at this point. If you really did the math, all the way back to, when I met you, 1995 again, right?
Yeah.
And so now you're involved in a lot, I would say, with those early moments when a parent is calling you or you're meeting with them, and you do in-home evaluations when the pandemic wasn't going on. Of course, we're getting back to that soon, aren't we?
We will be back into the homes hopefully by May.
Yay!
Yeah. It'll be good.
It's so much better, I would think. Don't you think?
Absolutely.
I can't imagine doing an evaluation with these emotional issues that parents are dealing with, and you're just looking at a daggone TV screen. That's got to be tough.
It is very tough. We're still not going to be doing the hands-on activities yet. We'll be back into the homes. So, but eventually we'll get there.
And by the way, we have the show links Neil will have on there, how to get up with CDSA and early intervention services. Those are super, super important. There's a little plug there is, right? the earlier you get to this stuff, the better it is. I
Yes.
think I'm right.
Yes.
Yeah, and sometimes kids are just missed, which sucks for sure.
Yes.
So, but getting back to the early reactions, right? So I was a part of, and it was really cool. It was like an evaluations team. Honestly, it's probably a good model of what you guys do, actually, Lisa, because it was part of a, I don't even know why I was doing it. I was literally in school. I mean, super green, not knowing anything, and went to this team where a doctor was the lead doctor. And I mean, I don't even know. I think they had PT there and OT and all these different disciplines. And it was a total group effort to evaluate this child in like a room. And so I had the opportunity of being behind a one-way mirror and observing, how this process is done, because there's a lot that goes into this. If there's one thing I think that this segment of mental health does really well is multi-team disciplines. Would you say that's true, Lisa?
Yes. That's how we used to do evaluations. We would have a speech therapist. We would have a physical therapist. We even had a nurse.
Yeah.
And at one point, we had a nutritionist. So you have all these great minds coming together with different ideas and aspects. And, you really felt like you were learning so much about this child. That has really dissipated, unfortunately.
Has it? Yeah, I was going to ask you. You said past tense there. What
Yeah,
up?
why is that?
Yeah, what happened?
Well, it just looks different now. We've got physical therapists doing overall developmental assessments. So we contract out for providers. So we are a provider at the last resort. And it's really hard for us to keep those physical therapists, occupational therapists, because they're not doing their discipline. They're not specializing.
So it's really broadened out.
It has.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's shocking, actually, to me in my brain.
Yeah. And we actually, our social worker retired, so we need a social worker.
Advertisement. Let's get you in there, somebody. Yeah. So let's get back to one of the things I really remember learning there is this doctor gave us all a little in-service about how to deliver bad news to a parent. Boy, I just remember being just kind of heartstruck with it. Like, it was, those are tough moments. Those are tough moments right from the get-go of being a parent dealing with this stuff. I mean, you got to imagine you're bringing your baby in here and you're worried already because the baby's not crawling or something's, you have a sense, right, as a mom or a dad. I will degenderize that because dads are really in there too. So men, really, like, you need to know we're there. And now you're having this whole team or a PT person, physical therapy or somebody, and you're getting this information. And he taught us, like, look, just be direct. You have to be honest. You have to be straightforward. You can't sugarcoat this or try to do too much emotional caretaking. But that's why you have a whole team there and follow up. And, Lisa sets you up with services and support and, a lot of awesome things. But that's a really tough thing to really do. So I'm curious, as you're doing the home visits, Lisa, and just things that you observe to normalize what a parent is feeling in these tough moments, days, weeks, and early months of kind of dealing with all of this. You've had to have so many conversations with parents.
Yeah, it's really hard because sometimes you don't know where the parent is. Sometimes they know that something is really wrong, but they don't want to know. It's easier to deal with in denial. And then sometimes you just have parents who are just so overwhelmed because not only do you have this child, you have other children. So
Right.
you're
It's a
continuing
whole family here.
to be a mom, a taxi. Your life still goes on with this child that you just learn has special needs, and for whatever reason, you may cope well, you may not, and sometimes we lose families altogether. We lose parents because they're not ready.
Oh, interesting.
to-
What percentage would you say may? Let me ask it this way: what percentage, if you will, would maybe bail out of services or stop services? I know this is just spitballing it, but in your experience, for emotional reasons of the parent.
It's hard to say.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Really, it's hard to say because sometimes they bail and you don't know why they bail.
Right.
So it's more like, are they not ready, or are they just and sometimes parents will say, we really do have a lot going on.
Yeah. So busy.
I changed jobs. I can't find daycare. We've moved for whatever reason.
I think I'm going to make the bold statement, and Cortney, I'm really curious what you think about that, because we're coming up to what you experienced yourself, as you kind of already alluded to, right? I'm going to make the bold statement that I'm willing to bet that a pretty daggum high percentage of that is like straight up grief reactions.
I was just going to say,
Yeah.
It's a loss.
Yeah, it's a
and
major.
you immediately, there's a death. There's a death of what you thought, a death of the future to some degree. And in some cases, there's the death of having a typical child, a quote unquote normal child, but I can't stand that.
I know, right?
And so there is a grieving process. And what's the first step or phase of grief is denial, right?
Shut her down.
Shock. It's
Denial. I'm going home. I can't deal with
It's
this.
too overwhelming.
It's gotta be just
It's very overwhelming.
horribly powerful in just dominating worries and fears and all
Well,
of that.
what is the first thing that people write or post or write or say or tell someone as soon as they have a baby? Right after the gender.
I don't know what you got, Lisa.
It's joy.
Yeah,
It's-
everyone's
okay,
healthy.
okay.
Everyone's
Oh,
healthy.
Oh,
gotcha.
yeah.
That's
Gotcha.
you'll
what-
see it on all the birth posts that this is the way mom and baby are happy and healthy, or what
That's right. I got you.
And so that's everyone's
It's the
goal.
standard. It's the goal.
Yeah.
It's the
standard. It's the
requirement almost.
expectation.
Yeah, I'll tell you, you're hitting me. I feel a little convicted there. Or I can really identify with that. I mean, Lisa, you remember when Aaron was born? I mean, that scared the ever beloved Jesus out of me. I really don't even like to go back to those moments, because when our first son was born, I mean, he was born with what's the word?
Meconium.
Meconium, and they put him in the freaking NICU. I'm like, yo, we got a lot of nurses around here. We got a lot of people going. I mean, I couldn't have been
It's
more
scary.
freaked out, Lisa, when all that was going
It
on.
was very scary. It's scary having a child and then to,
Something's wrong.
yeah, you're like, oh my gosh, because when you give birth, it's like you give birth to your heart. And it's a whole separate, it's just a part of you. And it is very scary. And I don't know what it's like to have a premature baby, but I can't even imagine. And, that's the other thing is we can't assume what these parents are going through. You have no idea.
So from a parent's perspective, which is the focus, what we're diving in a little bit to tonight, gosh, it is normal to feel powerfully scared and overwhelmed and angry, just pissed off that I don't get what I am supposed to get, a normal, happy, healthy baby, as you said, right? Like, it's terrifying. I mean, there's
And
a
you
lot
get
of
angry for your
swirl.
child too, knowing the
defensive
future
and
that they
protective. Yeah. There's a lot. That's so. So if you're experiencing this, and you know, some people are going to tune into the show, and it's kind of like, you know, this is difficult time, and I want you to feel like you're not crazy.
Yeah, just find your supports. Find your solid supports, whether it's family members or support groups. You know, sometimes you have to be careful with the internet because it will feed you a lot of junk.
Oh gosh.
And like I said earlier, you know, your baby's diagnosis looks totally different from somebody else's. So you really have to be careful. And I always tell parents that because they will, and I'm sure with the pandemic, you know, not being able to get out and meet and do your normal routines and activities, I think a lot of people have turned to the internet for support, and that could be so dangerous.
Yeah, it's a really good point, Lisa, and we'll come down towards, you know, the last segment that I wanted to focus on in a little bit was, you know, what do you do? And of course the question is, how do you cope? What do you do? And you hit, you know, of course she's always on point, right? Like, you know, you hit a few of the things that my brainstorm created. I want to back up too, though. You just said something that made me think of going back a little bit to, like, what are we talking about here again? Almost back to the first segment of definition, because I forgot to cover, like, yeah, there's these big ones, but what about, you know, there's a cool article quote that I had. What about vision impairments? What about hearing impairments? What about traumatic brain injury, or, as you said, prenatal stuff? There are a lot of things that go into, as you were saying, some of these are very invisible. These are all special needs the child is having to cope with, and parents are having to fear. Remember when we like to joke, you know, we got Aaron's eyesight tested, like, remember, like, you know, well,
I have bad eyesight. I've been wearing glasses since 4th grade, but I probably needed them in 1st grade. I just didn't tell anybody.
Yeah, probably. And I had hearing deficits, bad. That's one of the reasons why my English skills struggled early on. I couldn't hear, and I didn't even really know that I wasn't hearing right. So there's a lot. This is very broad, is the scope that we're really trying to paint out. Cortney, let's go to, again, more of the experiences that you had just as a parent that you alluded to. I think you said, you know, adopting kids, and just break it down for what you've experienced, if you would, on some level.
Sure. So, well, both of my children were adopted internationally. So we have a son from Russia and a daughter from China. And
super cool, by the way.
They're super cool. And so that is a whole other that's a whole other podcast, I'm afraid.
We got time.
But so both of my children kind of entered this world with trauma. And so that in and of itself presents as a special need as well as they're growing up. Because there's loss and grief that they need to handle. And so, but one of my children they were on a list of kids with special needs. So we walked into that fully knowing that there may or may not be something there, because the particular country where they were born, you can't really trust maybe a lot of the information you're getting. And so it was general information. It was a brain diagnosis. We had physicians here kind of look at stuff. But again, until you bring the child home and have all the assessments done, you just don't know. And so that in and of itself requires a lot of courage. And so... Yeah,
one thing real quick, right? Like, there's two things there. One, you're right. I mean, this is courageous to engage in the first place.
Right.
Which has its own unique experience that you're coming at it with, as opposed to what we were previously, I think, kicking around. Yeah, it was...
Right. Was everyone wants a healthy baby.
Yeah.
And so that was actually, from a parent perspective, walking into bringing a child into our home that was already, we knew, was not, quote unquote, healthy. we received pushback from friends, family.
Oh.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
the idea is why would you
Why are you going to do this?
Yeah, like this could be like
Why
a
would you do
lifelong
that to
thing. You don't
yourself?
know, right?
Yeah.
And that was concern for us. It was their love for
was
us.
caring and-
It was
yeah.
caring. But yeah, so we entered into that adoption with, we're being rebellious. We're doing something crazy already. We're what are we doing?
Yeah. Which is interesting. You bring up the whole people's reaction around you. That's a big part of the parent experience.
Yes.
That can be great and supportive. I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I mean, people got supportive friends and family and all that. But boy, just like I made the mistake of special needs kids. Yeah. People don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
People don't really, it's a shock to your, how about grandparent factors? We don't have a grandparent in the room, Grandparents are dealing with a lot of the feelings that go along with that too. So there's a lot of...
There are a lot of layers.
Swirl
Yeah.
around the whole social scene, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah. So we, long story short, both of our children have special needs.
Okay.
And both of them have completely invisible special needs.
Okay.
And both of them have a list of invisible special needs.
Yeah.
There you have it.
Yeah.
So we, we had to go through that grieving process.
Well, let me ask you right quick. It's foreshadowing a little bit.
Yeah.
Is that manageable?
Well, do you see what I look like? I mean, I know we're on a podcast, but we have a YouTube, we have Facebook. Self-care for me today was going for a walk and not showering. So,
And you look fine. People are going to tune into the YouTube now. They're going to be like, yo.
How old are your children?
so my children now are teenagers. They're 17 and 13, but we brought them home. Our son it was 3 days before his first birthday, and our daughter was 19 months old when we got home with her. So
they were babies.
still
Early
young, but
intervention age, right?
yeah. So, and we had assessments, early intervention. We were referred by our pediatrician. We had a wonderful pediatrician.
Good.
On top of everything. We had all the assessments and everything. And so, but some of them kind of slipped through or were disguised because they have the list of things, of challenges. And so some present very similarly to other things. So some slipped by. So we're still learning. Even now,
Right.
Even now, it's a journey. Like it's not even going to be an overnight thing.
It never is.
Yeah. So
But again, the hope is there. I mean, you're sitting here.
I'm sitting here.
You're alive.
I have
You're
a life.
well.
I have my own business. We have fun as a family. It's wonderful.
Right. And I know somebody personally that's pretty close to us. You know who you are, sir. They're great. Yeah, the world doesn't end is my main point here. Like you get through this, and then you find out sometimes they do. They have superhuman powers.
Yeah.
Amazing things come from this stuff. I mean, the stories are just... Tune in to some of the YouTube stuff and people that are sharing what their children have done. I mean, you've been doing it long enough, Lisa. I know you've got flooding through your brain. I would be willing to bet, like, all these kids that you met and and I know we've talked about it sometimes, like how they're doing now and what's happening and the hope that's there, right? Like, is this hopeful? Is this manageable?
It's funny. I've been doing this for so long that I'll be at the grocery store and I'll run into a family, which I haven't for a long time, but I'll run into a family and they're like, do you know him? And I'm like, no, I don't.
Right.
But it's so cool to run into those and I do intake now for the program. So I don't build the rapport with the families like I used to. But I was able to see a little girl just recently that I had worked with, and it was so ironic that this is bad. They were my favorite family.
You heard it here.
It was amazing to see her again, nonverbal, we had no idea. Parents had no idea what was wrong. Some of these kids are sent away, to Duke Or I had a child on my caseload one time that she had to have a hemispherectomy.
Oh, my
So
goodness.
part of her brain was gone.
Wow.
And, the challenges that this family had gone through was just amazing. It was just crazy. And, I think she ended up with like a service dog. I had written a letter way after she had aged out of the program for her to receive a service dog, because I had worked with them since she was 8 months old, and then they age out at 3 and then help them transition. So,
Which real quick is a nice little transition, or not transition, but a plug. We did, these shows do bleed together. I say that all the time because we did a show on service dogs. If you go to throughtherapisteyes.com, and John, a colleague of us here at Metrolina, we actively got to see a service dog in action
so
for his
cool.
wife, and it's amazing. So I'm on this little hope bump here because these parents are smiling. These parents are thriving. These families are engaging. Like I really want people to hear that you're really not alone. There are great supports that are out there. Call Lisa at CDSA. She'll plug you in Gaston County, or each county has one. States across the world. These are states across the country, and I would imagine services around the world. Like, we know Autism Speaks is worldwide now. I'm willing to say. I'm good. I'm getting head nods.
I believe
Right?
so.
Like there's and you can get through this, right? So again, Cortney, is this manageable?
Yes, it's manageable. But there are times when it's lonely, but it teaches you to look at the world from a different perspective. It teaches you to, find the positivity in all things. It teaches you to not take things for granted. Like, there are so many good things that you learn as a parent walking through this journey with your kids.
Let me frame
But
this.
I don't want to sugarcoat it, though, Chris.
Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, I know you want your heart. There is hope and there's positivity, and obviously it's manageable. But sometimes the journey is hard forever.
Yeah.
For a lot of us.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because, like Lisa said, even with people who share the same diagnosis on paper, it presents very differently.
Absolutely.
So even when you join some of the support groups or talk to other families, the experiences are very different, and your struggles are very different. And it does.
Yeah.
I'm a Debbie Downer right now for you, aren't I?
No, you're not. You're doing what
I think
we
it's
wanted
reality.
Yeah,
though.
exactly.
It's definitely reality.
Yeah.
And
But I have not lost my sense of humor.
that's the best part.
to do. You gotta laugh if you
gotta
can't laugh
laugh.
in life.
You gotta
man.
laugh.
You can't laugh in life.
gotta-
I was really joining with you there, and I appreciate that, and I want to honor that, Cortney, because that is real. And you're right. I don't want to sugarcoat it either. I think that people need to understand the ongoing challenges. So so people that are listening that have teenagers and are frustrated and tuning in maybe to parents' experience with children that have special needs. Did I do it?
You did it.
Got it. Right? Okay, so this is an ongoing challenge. You're going to renew grief.
With each stage in life.
With each stage.
You have to agree.
Okay, yeah.
So neither of my children are currently traditional college, university, 4-year program bound, not even 2-year program bound.
Right.
And so, even just walking through that initial high school, and one of mine is a junior, like, just at that acceptance of, okay, their path is not the same as my path. And so every stage of life requires a new perspective, a new, okay, step back and let's reevaluate what's important, what's not. But
think about how you do that with typically developing children.
yeah.
They're ever evolving.
Right.
So
I can tell you this as an older teenage parent family. Yeah, we're constantly seeing new stuff,
Yeah.
right?
yeah,
It's never a
there's
dull
some
day.
days I'm like, I think you were switched. Like, who are you? Where did you come from?
Yeah.
So real quick, I don't want to lose this thought that so I just lost it because I joined with you on that, and then I got it back, and I'm glad because I think this is something that I hear, and I'm going to tell you honestly, we've got our own children with special needs, I guess you'd say. I think there's a lot that, well, we already talked about that. I guess I'm talking about my own naivete, is a good word, with the phrase and the experience that I've had that I hear parents with children with special needs say often, I wouldn't change a thing. If I could do a magic solution and make this different, like, I wouldn't do that. And I think that's so cool, but I'm going to be vulnerable and really kind of say, like, I can't say that I really, to the depths of that, understand that. Like, I struggle with that a little bit. Your face is doing some things, do you? Okay, yeah. What's up?
I struggle because I understand where they're coming from. I understand it from their perspective of the reality. I mean, they are trying to sit in their reality, as we all are, because if we're always, well, what if, or if this wasn't happen, or if this hadn't happened, we can't live there. So I understand the perspective of saying I would never change a thing. I get that. However, my kids struggle every single day with something.
Yeah.
I've had the schools call me on a monthly basis for something. My kids are in counseling, they're in therapies, of course I would want to change that for them because it's hard for them.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
As an adult and a parent, I'll figure it out. I'll handle it. I'm strong. I'm strong-willed. I'm stubborn. But for them, I can't tell you how many times both of my children have cried saying, why am I like this? I don't want to be like this. Why can't I be normal?
Yeah.
And so I understand the perspective of wanting to live in the reality and saying they wouldn't change a thing because they love their children. I love my children, but I would want to change something for them to make it easier.
Well, I really appreciate that. I didn't expect that, Courtney, and I really appreciate your courage and perspective with that, because what I didn't anticipate and what seems like we're doing is giving permission to allow your real and true, genuine experience to be a part of what's going on, including the grief and the losses we've talked about, I think, and ongoingly having that normal feeling that you've just really described so well. So that's it's okay.
And I also understand, because I'm a strong Christian. My faith is a huge part of our family and for me and my life. So I understand also that struggles, build character. They make you into who God created you to be. So I understand that perspective as well. But life itself is already a struggle. Why pile on?
Yeah, wow, that's really there's a lot there. I think I'm going to move our conversation on because I really want to park out there, because I think my supposition is that people are probably feeling that a lot, and it's not an area that they feel permission to really acknowledge and talk about. So, that's awesome. Thank you for that. Right. I had a whole nother segment that I think we've already kind of covered. I wanted to kind of tell the story of the parents' experience. Let me just kind of check in with you guys. Do you think we've done a good job at this point of kind of what this experience is, particularly in the initial parts, and then kind of ongoing as you're dealing with teens? And we haven't talked much about adult people with special needs, but did we cover that enough? Did we give a good description of what a parent's experiencing? What do you think?
I think so. I mean, for a single podcast, absolutely.
Yeah, right. I know, right?
You could talk about this all day long.
Absolutely.
There's so many facets.
So many different factors. Yeah. And, being on the early part of it, there's so many different factors that go into that. And having teenagers and then young adult, and then you've just got this ongoing stages of, there's just a lot.
So what I want to do with the segment that I was going to do there is pull an audible, and the part of the section that I wanted to talk about is just this part. The reality, instead of telling the story of what it's like, I really want to make a dramatic pause and a slow draw into helping parents truly trust your instincts. Now, I do a lot in my work of putting myself in my client's shoes. I really do that. I've done that for a lot of years. And I feel like I've been pretty successful to be able to understand, bipolar and substance abuse families and just the whole array of things that I deal with. And I acknowledged in the beginning that developmental delays and these special needs is a weakness of mine that I've struggled with in that. But I would imagine, and y'all are going to be able to speak to this, that there's got to be this huge natural doubt, because I can't be alone when a parent is learning a diagnosis. Like, Lisa, you come home and talk about some diagnosis sometimes I can't even pronounce, literally. Like,
well, that's what Google's for.
Yeah, but the thing that I'm tapping here is the doubt that you have about what you know. Like, can I say boldly that you know your kid better than anyone else in the world, whether they're a professional and knows how to spell these crazy things that Chris can't even speak? You trust your instincts. Can y'all talk to that?
Yeah, I'll talk to that. So, one of my children, when they were 3, was real quiet upstairs. So I went upstairs to check on them. And they were in their room and had a big, huge puzzle of each state of the United States. And they had taken it apart and gotten 50 pieces of paper and were sketching each state, outlining it,
That's
and
awesome.
then taking the pieces of paper and putting the puzzle itself back together from the paper, not the puzzle pieces.
Just wow.
Okay, and coloring them all and everything, okay?
Right.
And I walked in. They were 3.
Wow.
I walked in. I saw what was happening, and I immediately texted my husband and said, I don't know what to do. I cannot parent this child. Because they are way out of my league.
Right.
And
Wow.
I doubted my ability
Right.
to, I knew something.
Something's up.
Yeah.
Something's up. I
Yeah.
don't know many kids who at age 3 would do all this. And it was precision. And so we knew immediately something was up. But I doubted my ability I knew it would be overwhelming to figure it out. I didn't know where to turn. I knew it would be scary to figure out what it might be. I knew that it would change the way I'd parented. And I was just still learning.
Yeah. To be just a parent.
Yeah, because
We're all
parenting
learning to be parents.
Yeah, parenting is very different for children with special needs, especially children who have been adopted. It's a different everything you read in the books, you have to do the opposite. And so
Right.
It's scary. And so I doubted it, but I also knew something's up and I need to act. I need to get help. I need to figure this out. So
There's a lot of reasons. I think I recently talked about on the show why I say the human emotional experience. Let's figure this out together.
I just said that? Did I just
You
say
did
figure?
literally just said that. Like, you didn't say together, but we're going to figure this out.
So can I get some merch?
Absolutely. We're hooking you up with a coffee cup and whatever you want, man, with my inscribbled signatures of whatever the heck the phrase is. No, seriously, listen, that needs to be celebrated. Like, you can figure this out with your child and with your husband and with your support systems. There are no immediate answers. I got a list here in a second of my brainstorm of things to do and kind of to cope, and I think you guys can probably say more about that. But I am amazed at human beings' ability to cope with what's in front of you.
Mm-hmm. To adapt, to learn, to
flexibly move,
Yep.
to learn and move through the challenges that face you. And then how about share with others so that they can kind of learn, from your experiences is what I think I love the story, because that's a very vulnerable moment, but is a great teaching moment, Cortney, that parents listening can tap into and gain the confidence and strength that I wanted to kind of highlight with this little spot.
I did not know how strong that I would need to be, and I didn't know how strong I was. And
Yeah, that's a powerful statement.
And I'm still praying for strength, by the way. I need more.
We need
But
We all need.
We need it as we go.
that's any parent.
We need it as we
That is every
go.
parent. That's right.
Yeah. So let me just throw my brainstorm. Let's wrap up here. We still have plenty of time, so I'm not saying I'm not shutting this down, but I think what I want to do is just like shoot my little brainstorm that I did and talk about, because I think you guys are both, I mean, you're so in touch with these things, and you've peppered in a lot throughout our conversation on how to do and how to cope already. And so just let your minds shift around, and people listening, just let your minds go in a direction of what do you do already to cope? What maybe are one or two things that you might be able to add, and y'all, Cortney and Lisa, jump in and add to what you experience with that, because again, we can cope, we can deal with this, we can figure this out together. So don't be alone. I say that all the time, I know, on the show, but dang, that's just so key, right? Don't be alone. Be careful about unfair comparisons on Facebook. Lisa was all absolutely on point, already said that, right?
That's a big one.
Oh gosh, these comparisons, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's a big one. In fact, that might be the main reason that I am no longer really on social media a whole lot.
I know. I mean, I don't know, because I'm not either, and I used to see your posts,
yeah,
but now I don't, right?
Because it's just everyone puts out their best, and
Yeah.
we can never live
And
up.
you get in your mind.
Yeah, and you get
that. Like, wow, I want to be like that every single day. Well, they're not like that every single day. This is just a moment. So,
Yeah.
But we think, wow, their life is great.
They've got it all together, and I
they've got
don't.
it together.
Look at them. They're on a boat in crystal blue water with amazing sunsets behind them, holding each other, hugging each other, the whole family with a big fish they caught. That looks so awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
It's a cool moment. But beyond that, I would add, Cortney, I think, to what you're experiencing with this being so big, I don't think you need, let me say this very clearly, listen, I don't think you need social media to fall into the trap of comparing your family, your life, your situation
absolutely.
with other people right next door.
Absolutely.
Right? So this is something that absolutely gets, I think that's part of what the fear is. I think that's part of what we said the grief is, and all the things that go through your mind.
I've heard moms say, "Oh, well, when I pick up, little Johnny from daycare, there's this little girl. She comes up to me and she's talking sentences, and Johnny's older than her, and he only has 3 words.
Oh boy,
Yeah,
It's
it's tearjerker.
it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. So don't be alone. Be careful about unfair comparisons, especially on Facebook. It's okay to grieve. I think we talked about that. I would imagine the feeling of how can I go so down about what I fear. I am not supposed to, want the best for my kid, and I feel so defeated. Like those are real feelings. I think, Cortney, you talked about that earlier, right? Stay present. Be careful about getting way too far ahead of the game in life. We can begin to imagine literally the day after Lisa's home, in your home, doing an evaluation. Well, what about marriage? What about babies? What about grandbabies? What about retirement? Oh my God, are they going to live independently? What are they going to do? How's this going to work? Holy cow, hold the phone, right? Like, let's slow it down. These ladies are like shaking their heads and nodding.
Yeah, we're nodding. We're like, yeah.
It's like, yeah.
It all stems from fear.
Right.
It all stems from fear, because I wonder. So one of my children, we will have to have guardianship once they turn 18 for a while. We don't know how long, but it kind of, you have this grand plan as parents. Oh, we're going to be empty nesters. They're finally going to leave the house. They're going to go to college. We're going to retire and travel. And we have this expectation or idea in our mind back when we're deciding to have children. And it just, again, it's another grieving process to go through, but it's also fear of, okay, so what will our lives look like?
Yeah, as a parent, and then as a parent with some special needs, I guess, in our family as it is, I can't tell you how many times my mind has changed directions. You, Lisa, like, I thought this, and then no, that's okay. Maybe this will be well. Okay, not that. Well, okay, wait.
I'm also a planner, so
Yeah, as am I. I'm a 1-5.
Yeah.
Lisa,
I'm not a fly by the seat of my pants kind of person.
See, a lot of times in this show, I'll say like Lisa's probably gonna listen at home or thinking she's gonna bump all. Yeah, 1, 5, and 10 year plan and how but that's structure.
Yeah.
We try to structure our life. I didn't have it on my list, but it occurs to me like, how about be flexible as a coping skill? Like, get ready to change course directions because your kid gets to be a part of what you plan,
Right.
Which is important. Okay, join communities I had, right? There's communities, Autism Speaks. I'm ignorant a little bit here. What are some examples of communities? I'm curious what you guys would. I basically stop at Autism Speaks.
Well, there are even small local communities. So in where we are in the Lake Norman area of North Carolina, there's even a small group that meets once a month on Saturdays, parents of kids with special needs.
Awesome.
I have not gone.
Okay.
Do you want to know why?
I am bated breath curious.
Because I live every day under a roof. The last thing I want to do on my Saturday is go and be with parents who are struggling the same as I am, because it was hard for me. I was like, I don't want to listen to everyone else's struggles because I have my own and I don't, I want a break. Yeah. But recently, I've decided to go try one out just because I feel like, I think you need some community here, that people that don't necessarily understand exactly, but understand on a foundational level. Wow.
So is that like a growth area, or is that like a
for
new,
me? Oh, maybe. Right. Yeah. I don't know. Or maybe things are just so desperate.
But you have no idea. Even if you go in and you could be a solid ground for somebody who maybe is just learning, you have no idea the impact that you could have on another parent.
Yeah.
That's what I love about communities, Lisa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. When people come together, even just parents, like, we've talked many times, like the way we feel after people on the sidelines of a soccer team and whatever, like, oh my God, like your kid won't pick up the wrapper? What is the deal with the lights? They're always on. And other parents are like, oh no, it's the clothes. And I'm like, oh my God, I know it's the clothes. Like, it's just so, like, the power of not being alone. And you're right, Lisa, like the impact you can have just by what you're sharing. Even what you're sharing right now is amazing. I mean,
But there are tons of groups for anything. You can just
Special Olympics.
Yeah, you can. You can Google it and find so much.
That is the advantage of social media and everything. Okay, join communities. Find the beauty in being different. Dramatic pause, right? Like, we all have skills. I mentioned the Aspergers stuff and all. It's your super strength. Teach the child developmental awareness and answer the questions that arise there was on my list. And a quick comment about that, as in general, when we talk about parenting, on this show, I kind of like to highlight the best guidepost I've been able to come with the questions and doubts of how much do I share with the siblings? How much do I share with the actual kid themselves? I don't want to go too much. I don't want to make them too fearful, but I want to inform them, Here's the guidepost I've come up with. Make sure, first of all, the kid knows they can ask you any question that they would want to or need to. They got to know that, and you're going to need to reinforce that over the years and several times over. But when you accomplish that, then you allow the kids' questions to guide how much it is that you share, because they will continue asking questions until they get out what they needed to know. Does that make sense to be real quick?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right? Like, that's really, I think, important. Be mindful to help siblings understand, especially when they're older siblings, I mentioned. Older siblings get jealous of the new baby that comes around. Well, what about the new baby that you're like all fawning over and worried about? And, the older kids sitting over there like, yo, Mom, Dad, can we like throw a ball?
I grew out of my shoes 2 years ago.
Right.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
That is not personal experience.
True. Yeah, because you shared how you buy fake Nike. No, that wasn't you.
That wasn't me.
That wasn't you. You buy. Casey's going to be mad now. She's like, I bought my kid, and the kid went to school, and they're fake Nikes. Now, you buy real Nikes, don't you?
No, my son buys his own shoes because he's got about 12 of those Nikes.
Seriously, totally with you on that one. Yeah. Join communities, forgive. I actually had that on my list twice. I did, didn't I?
You did.
That must be important, right? Forgive self and take care of self needs. I don't have time to go into the caretaking role today. We covered a whole show on that. Mm-hmm. You become a caretaker, and caretakers are best taking care of others when they're taking care of themselves. Like that's I think a true and important statement. Maintain a focus on marriage. There is a marriage. Like, oh, by the way, honey's here. You know, yeah, you got to do parenting. You got to deal with these needs and these things, but there's also a part of you in marriage that needs to be an important focus. Mm-hmm. Trust your instincts. I mentioned that already. Or laugh, right? Laugh. Don't forget humor.
Yeah, you need it.
There's so many laughable moments.
You need
Celebrate them. Enjoy them. This kid is a beautiful creature and whatnot. So as I went through some of those things, what did your minds do? Or is there things I missed? How do parents cope? I mean, how do you encourage, validate, support them as you go along your relationship with parents or as a parent? What do you think?
Well, early on, I really think that celebrating the baby steps is really key, and not focusing so much on the big picture.
Pun intended, right?
Because that's very overwhelming, and nobody knows the future. I mean, we just don't. So just focusing on today or maybe tomorrow. A lot of these parents are going through, especially if their child is medically fragile, they've got so many different doctors in their lives, and they've got specialized therapies, and they got a lot going on. So just celebrating today and the baby steps of accomplishments and finding the good in the day,
I really love that. Celebrate the baby's steps.
Yeah.
And I might even create that together with you, Lisa, and say celebrate the baby's steps all the way through their life.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Like, how cool is that? Cortney, sum us up, and I'll take us out of here. We gotta get out of here. Any closing thoughts or things you're thinking?
No, I just I think it's important for parents to be honest with what they're feeling and going through, and not try to hide it, not try to think less of themselves because they're going through it. I have a wonderful support team of a best friend who is a therapist and understands these things and works with these children.
I know her.
Yes,
hey, girl.
you do. And I also have a husband that is a true partner with me, and we lean on each other a lot. We have special stares at each other, like I need your help kind of stares, or
Gotcha.
Tag team, I'm out, or take a break or whatever. And so it actually has brought us closer together because we need each other to help. And so those single parents out there of children with special needs, find someone,
how about that, right?
find someone that you can tag team with, that you can partner with, that you can turn to.
Glad you found that.
Yeah.
For sure, because single...
That's a whole nother podcast.
That is a whole show, girl, right? Yeah, so listen, I hope that we've done a job to kind of help you through initial stages, understanding what you're dealing with. As Cortney said earlier, in a single podcast, how do you accomplish all of that? We can take deeper dives on different specific parts of this, but there's a lot of hope. There's a lot of reality that's here. Understand this little child is absolutely in your home. You've got what it takes to be there for them, with them. And I love how Lisa created the idea of celebrating their steps throughout their whole life together. So it is an amazing journey. It's well worth it. Let's continue figuring this out, right? So we will see you guys next week, and take care. Happy St. Patty's Day. I think we're recording this on St. Patty's Day. Yeah.
Yes.
Happy St. Patty's Day. I hope you had. Take care.